We've arrived here at the Athenaeum this evening to announce and celebrate the first ever gathering of civil servants to form a Victorian Public Service Association. It is pleasing to see so many have gathered here, and it looks like a crowd of over 1,000 or so people who have attended this inaugural meeting to show their support. I will now pass you over to our meeting chairman, Mr. Wimble.
Thank you all for coming. This is quite a change from my regular position. You may know me from the Lands Department and all the work I have developed there. I regret the absence of my colleague, Mr. Ellery. He wishes he could be here, but is attending other matters interstate. I am excited to announce that the civil service of the colony will comprise of 4,000 to 5,000 people who are going to form a union for all of our benefits. I presume at this stage that the principles governing the conduct of the association will serve self-interest and self-preservation. This might take the form of a public store and life assurance with the formation of societies and clubs within the association. I believe it would be of great value that in the future the younger members will have to pass examinations before assuming higher offices, mutual improvement societies and literary clubs.
Thank you, Mr. Wimble. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Wade from the Chief Secretary's Department.
I'm pleased to declare that a Public Service Association should now be formed. I can assure you, forming such an association has not been an easy task. With the large body of rising unclassified officers and a number of curl darlings of South Yarra, we've taken great leaps to arrive at the formation of this union, which will benefit all and abolish grievances. If we are watched, so much the better, for we have nothing to conceal. And our objective is to not only help ourselves, but to help the state and our immediate security.
Hear, hear. You have nothing to fear as long as we keep within the bounds of loyalty to the Crown and Government prescribed.
Thank you, Mr. Wade and Mr. Stevens. Mr. Wollaston will move to approve the following resolution.
This meeting approves the proposed constitution so far as it relates to the formation of the council and proceeds immediately to ballot for office bearers, leaving the constitution to be revised and amended by the council.
Excuse me, Mr. Wollaston, as acting head of police, I would like to move an amendment.
Yes, Mr. Rudson, what would that be?
This meeting should be adjourned for a fortnight for the purpose of obtaining the concurrence of the Governor to be nominated as patron or president, and also to perfect arrangements for the ballot.
We don't want them. Jack's as good as his master here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rudson. We will appeal for a hearing, but we won't move on that amendment. Going forward, Mr. Ellery has consented to act as president of the association subject to the adoption of the following resolution, in which Mr. Caldwell will now go into detail.
Thank you, Mr. Wimble. In order to prevent the existence of any misconception as to the objects or the Public Service Association, this meeting considers it desirable to affirm that these objects are thoroughly consistent with perfect loyalty to the government and the Public Service Act.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Let it be witnessed by all of us on this day, the 17th of June, 1885, that these resolutions have been carried unanimously and the Victorian Public Service Association is now official. Now to announce the nomination. For President of the Association, from the Astronomical Department, Mr. R.L.J. Ellery. For the roles of Vice President, the nominees are Mr. Wimble from the Lands Department, Mr. Murray from the Mines and Water Supply, Mr. Morecambe from the Public Works Department, Mr. Sanford, Mr. Bartrock, and Mr. Byrne from Crown Law. From these candidates, 2 will be elected. The nomination for the role of Secretary is Mr. Groove from the Mines and Water Supply. Mr. Dwyer, Chief Secretary. Mr. Lilburn, Chief Secretary. Mr. Longland, Chief Secretary. Mr. Boom, Treasury. Mr. Kendall, Treasury. Mr. Simmons, Education. Mr. Tatham, Education. Mr. Graham, Public Works. Mr. Harding, Public Works. Mr. Roberts, Public Works. The results of the ballot will be made known either Thursday or Friday. Thank you all for coming.